Don't get in the helicopter. The young girl warned, her words hit the billionaire hard. Part 1, The Opening Hook. The child's scream cut through the Manhattan morning like a blade through silk. Don't get in the helicopter. Victor Corleone froze with one Italian loafer on the helicopter's landing skid, his hand gripping the door frame. Behind him, his security team tensed. Around him, the rooftop helipad of Corleone Tower buzzed with the usual pre-flight chaos, his assistant clutching tablets, his pilot running final checks, exhaust fumes mixing with the crisp October air. But that voice. That impossible, desperate voice shouldn't exist up here on the 73rd floor. Victor turned, his jaw tight, pulse hammering in a way it hadn't since his first hostile takeover 20 years ago. His eyes, steel gray and famously unreadable in boardroom negotiations, scanned the rooftop with predatory focus. There. A girl. Maybe 9 years old. Barefoot. Her small frame trembling in a thin yellow dress that whipped violently in the helicopter's downdraft. Dark hair plastered to her tear-streaked face. She stood 15 feet away, her small hand outstretched like she could physically stop him. How the hell did a child get past building security? Past his personal guard? Onto a private rooftop that required 3 biometric scans to access? Sir, we need to go, his pilot Marcus Thompson shouted over the rotor noise. Weather windows closing. The Zurich meeting. 300 million in acquisitions waiting. His entire legal team already in the air. Victor Corleone didn't miss meetings. He didn't hesitate. He'd built a $15 billion empire on the foundation of decisiveness. But the girl's eyes. They held something that made his blood turn to ice water. Not childish fear. Not confusion. Something ancient. Something knowing. Please, she whispered, but somehow Victor heard it clearly despite the mechanical thunder around them. Please don't get in. You'll die. You'll all die. His head of security, Davis, moved toward her. Sir, I'll handle this. Wait. Victor's hand shot up, stopping Davis mid-stride. The girl took a shaking step forward. Her lips were blue. She'd been up here in the cold for God knew how long. But her gaze never wavered from his face. I know you don't believe me, she said, louder now, fighting to be heard. I know how this sounds. But Mr. Corleone, if you get in that helicopter right now, you will crash into the Hudson River in exactly 12 minutes. Everyone aboard will die. Victor's rational mind supplied a dozen explanations. Mental illness. A prank. Corporate espionage using a child. His enemies were creative, but this was elaborate even for them. Yet something in his chest constricted. What's your name? He asked, surprising himself. Sarah. Sarah Connor. The girl's chin lifted with a dignity that didn't belong to someone so small. And I know you think I'm crazy. I know you have somewhere important to be. But I also know that the rear rotor assembly has a stress fracture that won't show on any of your pilot's instruments. It'll fail over the river. The helicopter will spin. You'll hit the water at an angle that will, her voice cracked, that will kill everyone instantly. The specificity made Victor's skin prickle. How could you possibly? Because I've seen it. Sarah's composure shattered. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I've seen it. I see things before they happen and I'm tired of watching people die when I could have stopped it. I couldn't save my mom. I couldn't save my teacher. But I can save you if you just listen to me. The rooftop fell silent except for the helicopter's thrumming rotors. Victor's assistant, Jennifer, whispered urgently in his ear, Sir, building security is on their way up. She's probably disturbed. We should. But Victor barely heard her. He was watching Sarah's face. Watching the way her small shoulders carried a weight no child should bear. Watching the absolute conviction in her eyes that transcended rehearsal or coaching. He'd made his fortune on reading people. On trusting his instincts when data and logic said otherwise. Every major decision in his life had come down to that razor-edge moment where he had to choose between the safe path and the right one. This felt like one of those moments. "Mr. Thompson," Victor called to his pilot. "Shut it down." "Sir?" Thompson's face registered pure confusion. "I said shut it down. We're not flying today." "But the Zurich can wait." Victor stepped fully off the landing skid, his eyes never leaving Sarah's face. "Power down. Now." As the rotors began to slow, as his team erupted in barely suppressed chaos, as Sarah Connor's knees buckled with relief and she collapsed onto the cold concrete, Victor Corleone made a choice that would change everything. He crossed the helipad and knelt beside the trembling child. "Okay, Sarah," he said quietly. "I'm listening. Now tell me, who are you really, and how did you know my helicopter was going to crash?" The girl looked up at him with eyes that held secrets he couldn't begin to imagine. And in that moment, Victor Corleone, the man who controlled billions, who bent markets to his will, who feared nothing and no one, felt the first cold finger of genuine terror trace down his spine. Because deep in his gut, in that place where instinct lived, he knew with absolute certainty. She was telling the truth. Hey there, incredible viewers. I'm so glad you're here for this journey. Before we dive deeper into Victor and Sarah's impossible story, I want to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I love connecting with you all. And listen, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are we waiting for? This story is just getting started, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single twist, because Sarah's warning? That's only the beginning. Now, how are you doing today? Comfortable? Got your coffee or tea ready? Perfect. Because what you're about to discover will keep you on the edge of your seat. 20 minutes later, Victor sat across from Sarah Connor in his private office, watching her devour her second croissant with the single-minded intensity of someone who hadn't eaten in days. The office occupied the entire 72nd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a god's-eye view of Manhattan, minimalist furniture that cost more than most people's homes, art that museums had tried to buy. Victor had designed every inch to intimidate, to remind visitors of the vast distance between his world and theirs. Sarah seemed utterly unimpressed. She sat in a leather chair that dwarfed her small frame, bare feet swinging several inches above the Persian rug, focused entirely on the pastry in her hands. Someone from his staff had brought her a blanket. She'd wrapped it around her shoulders without comment, without gratitude, like someone long accustomed to taking care of herself. Victor's head of security stood by the door, jaw tight with disapproval. Jennifer hovered nearby with her tablet, frantically rescheduling his entire day. Outside, through the glass walls, he could see his executive team gathered in confusion, their morning thrown into chaos because their CEO had cancelled a 9-figure deal to have breakfast with a barefoot child. He should feel ridiculous. Instead, he felt awake. More alert than he'd been in years. The security footage, Davis said, tablet in hand, his voice professionally neutral but edged with unease. "Sir, you need to see this." Victor took the device. The footage showed the rooftop at 6:47 a.m., over 2 hours before Victor's scheduled departure. Empty. Then, at 6:48, the feed glitched for exactly 3 seconds. When it cleared, Sarah was simply there. Standing in the middle of the helipad in her yellow dress, like she'd materialized from thin air. "That's impossible," Jennifer whispered, looking over his shoulder. "Check the stairwell cameras," Victor ordered. "Elevator. Every access point." "We did." Davis's expression was stone. "She doesn't appear on any of them. One moment the building has no security breaches. The next, she's on your private helipad. It's like she appeared out of nowhere," Sarah finished quietly, licking chocolate from her fingers. She met Victor's gaze with those unsettling, two old eyes. "Because I did." The room fell silent. Victor leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin, his classic negotiating posture. In the past 20 years, he'd faced down corporate raiders, hostile boards, federal investigators. He'd learned to read every tell, every micro-expression, every hint of deception. Sarah Connor showed none of them. "Let's start simple," he said. "How old are you?" 9. "Well, 9 and 3 months. Where are your parents?" Something flickered across her face, pain, quickly suppressed. "My mom died 4 months ago. Cancer. I don't have a dad. Never did. I'm sorry." And surprisingly, he meant it. "Who takes care of you now?" "Foster system." Sarah shrugged, but her fingers tightened on the blanket. "I'm in my 3rd home since Mom died. The Harrisons. They're fine. They don't hurt me or anything. They just don't really see me, you know?" Victor knew. He'd spent his own childhood being invisible, the son of a janitor and a seamstress, growing up in a Brooklyn tenement where roaches outnumbered residents. People had looked through him for the first 18 years of his life. He'd spent the next 20 making sure no one could ever ignore him again. "And these visions?" he asked carefully. "How long have you had them?" Sarah set down the croissant, her appetite apparently vanishing. "Since I was 6. They started small. I'd know when someone was going to drop something, or when the phone would ring. Mom thought it was coincidence at first." Her voice dropped. "Then I told her about the fire." "What fire?" "Our neighbor, Mrs. Chen. I saw her apartment burning. Saw her trapped in the bedroom. I told Mom 3 days before it happened." Sarah's hands twisted in the blanket. "Mom called the fire department anyway, made up some story about smelling gas. They inspected everything, said it was fine." After she died, Sarah continued, the visions got worse. Stronger. More detailed. Like whatever was holding them back just broke. She looked directly at Victor. "I've been seeing your helicopter crash for 6 days. Every night. The same exact images. You climbing in. The flight over the river. The rotor failing. The spin. The impact." She recited it with the flat precision of someone describing a recurring nightmare. "The visions are always the same. They always come true. Always." Sarah's voice hardened with determination. "I tried to get to you before. 3 times. Building security stopped me each time. They called my foster parents. The Harrisons told me to stop making up stories for attention. So last night, I snuck out. I hid in your building's loading dock at 4 a.m. And I waited until I could get to the roof." "How did you get past the biometric locks?" "I didn't. A maintenance guy came up to check something at 6:30. I slipped in behind him. He never saw me." She said it matter-of-factly, like evading corporate security was a normal Tuesday activity. "I'm good at being invisible when I need to be." Victor believed her. That particular skill, he understood intimately. Davis cleared his throat. "Sir, we should contact Child Protective Services. She's clearly run away from her placement. There are protocols." "No." Sarah's head snapped up, fear flashing across her face for the first time. "Please. They'll just send me back, and the Harrisons will be angry, and I'll get moved again, and," she looked at Victor with sudden, desperate intensity. "I saved your life. Doesn't that count for something?" "You haven't proven that yet," Jennifer interjected, her tone professional but skeptical. "We don't actually know the helicopter would have crashed." "Then check it." Sarah's chin lifted in challenge. "Check the rear rotor assembly. There's a stress fracture in the swashplate bearing. It won't show on normal diagnostics, but if you do a deep metallurgic scan, you'll find it." The specificity of the technical detail made Victor's eyebrows rise. "How do you know the mechanical terminology?" "I don't. Not really. When I see things, I just know stuff. Information comes with the images." Sarah frowned, struggling to explain. Like, I don't understand how helicopters work, but in the vision, I understood what was breaking and why. It's weird. Everything about this is weird. Victor made a decision. Davis, get our aviation maintenance team up here. I want that helicopter torn down and inspected. Every component. Prioritize the rear rotor assembly. Sir, that will take hours. Then they'd better start now. Davis nodded curtly and stepped out, already making calls. Jennifer moved closer, lowering her voice. Victor, you can't seriously believe. What I believe, he interrupted, his tone carrying the edge that made board members fall silent, is that my instincts kept me alive through 2 market crashes and 3 attempted coups of my own company. And right now, my instincts are telling me to listen. He turned back to Sarah, softening his voice. You're not going back to the Harrisons. Not yet. Not until I understand what's happening here. Relief flooded Sarah's face, followed quickly by suspicion. Why are you helping me? It was a fair question. Victor Corleone wasn't known for his charity. He donated to the right causes for tax purposes, attended the requisite galas, wrote checks that looked impressive in press releases. But actual, personal involvement in another human being's welfare? He'd carefully avoided that for 2 decades. Because, he said slowly, surprised by his own honesty, you risked everything to save my life. You're 9 years old. You should be worried about homework and friends. Instead, you're camping out in loading docks and evading security to warn a stranger about danger. He leaned forward, meeting her eyes. That kind of courage is rare, Sarah. And in my experience, rare things are worth protecting. For the first time since she'd appeared on his helipad, Sarah Connor smiled. It transformed her face, made her look like the child she should have been allowed to be. The moment broke when Victor's phone buzzed. A text from Davis, you need to see this. Now. Victor stood. Come with me. They took the private elevator down to the building's maintenance level, a space Sarah definitely shouldn't be seeing, filled with the guts of the building's infrastructure. His helicopter sat in the maintenance bay, already partially disassembled. Davis stood with 2 aviation mechanics, their faces ashen. The head mechanic, a woman named Torres whom Victor had trusted for 12 years, held up a component that meant nothing to Victor visually but clearly meant everything to her professionally. Mr. Corleone, Torres said, her voice shaking slightly, I don't know how to tell you this. We found a catastrophic stress fracture in the swashplate bearing. It's hidden beneath the housing, wouldn't have shown up on any of our standard diagnostics. But if you'd taken off today. She swallowed hard. The bearing would have failed within 10 to 15 minutes of flight. The rear rotor would have lost stability. You'd have crashed. The maintenance bay fell utterly silent. Victor felt the floor tilt beneath him, though he kept his expression neutral. Behind him, he heard Jennifer's sharp intake of breath. Sarah had been right. She'd been absolutely, impossibly right. The math checks out, Torres continued, seeming to need to fill the silence. Given your flight path to the airport, you'd have been over the Hudson River when it failed. The helicopter would have spun out of control. At that altitude, with that kind of failure. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Victor turned to look at Sarah. The girl stood small and quiet, wrapped in her blanket, looking not triumphant but profoundly tired. I told you, she said softly. I always tell the truth about the visions. No one ever believes me until it's too late. Something in Victor's chest cracked open, a place he'd kept carefully sealed since his mother's death, since his ex-wife's departure, since he'd decided that emotional connection was a liability he couldn't afford. This child had saved his life. This strange, impossible, brave little girl had seen the future and risked everything to change it. Jennifer, he said quietly, never taking his eyes off Sarah, clear my schedule for the rest of the week. Victor, you can't. I can, and I am. He finally looked at his assistant. Whatever I had planned, it can wait. Because right now, I need to figure out what to do about a 9-year-old who can see the future and just saved me from dying in a helicopter crash. He crouched down to Sarah's level. You said the visions have been getting stronger. What else have you seen? Sarah's face went pale. Lots of things. Bad things, mostly. I see disasters before they happen, but I can never stop them all. I'm just one person. Her voice broke, I'm just a kid who nobody listens to. I'm listening now, Victor said firmly. And I think it's time we figure out exactly what your gift means and how we can use it. Use it? Sarah frowned. I don't want to use it. I want it to go away. I want to be normal. Normal is overrated. Victor surprised himself with a small smile. Trust me on that one. What you have, Sarah, it's extraordinary. Terrifying, yes. But extraordinary. And extraordinary people need extraordinary protection. What does that mean? Victor stood, his mind already racing through possibilities, strategies, implications. The businessman in him saw potential. The human in him, the part he'd thought long dead, saw a child who needed someone to fight for her. It means, he said, that you're not going back to foster care. It means I'm going to make sure you're safe, fed, and protected. And it means we're going to figure out your visions together. You can't just adopt a random kid, Jennifer interjected. There are laws, procedures. Then we'll follow them. Victor's tone brooked no argument. Get me the best family attorney in New York. Today. Sarah stared at him with wide eyes. You're serious. You actually want to, what? Keep me? The vulnerability in her voice, the desperate hope she was trying so hard to hide, made Victor's throat tight. Sarah, you saved my life. That creates a debt. And I always pay my debts. He extended his hand. What do you say? Want to stick around and see what happens when someone actually believes you? Sarah looked at his outstretched hand like it was a lifeline thrown to a drowning person. Then slowly, carefully, she reached out and took it. Okay, she whispered. Okay, yes. As her small hand gripped his, as Victor felt the weight of responsibility settle onto his shoulders, as Jennifer began frantically making calls and Davis shook his head in disbelief, Sarah's eyes suddenly went distant. Unfocused. Her hand tightened on Victor's, fingernails digging into his palm. Sarah? What? Fire, she breathed, her voice strange and hollow. There's going to be a fire. Tomorrow night. Downtown. A restaurant called Billionaire. The kitchen. The gas line ruptures. 73 people are inside. There, her eyes filled with tears even as she stared at something only she could see. They're celebrating. Anniversary party. The fire spreads so fast. The exits are blocked. They can't get out. They can't. She gasped, coming back to herself, her whole body trembling. Victor knelt again, gripping her shoulders. Sarah. Look at me. How many people die? 42, she whispered. 42 people burn to death tomorrow night because of a gas line no one knows is damaged. Victor's mind raced. This was different from the helicopter, that had been personal, private. This was public. Provable. If Sarah was right again. Can you show me exactly where? He asked urgently. Can you draw it? Sarah nodded, still shaking. Victor looked up at Jennifer. Get me building schematics for every restaurant called Billionaire in Manhattan. And get me the fire marshal. Now. As his team sprang into action, as Sarah began sketching details of a disaster that hadn't happened yet, Victor Corleone realized his life had just changed in ways he couldn't begin to predict. He'd woken up this morning as a billionaire businessman focused solely on profit and power. Now he was the guardian of a child who could see the future. And if Sarah Connor's gift was real, and the evidence suggested it absolutely was, then they had less than 36 hours to prevent a massacre. The question was, would anyone believe them in time? Now I'm curious, do you believe in intuition? Have you ever had a gut feeling that saved you from something? Drop your stories in the comments. And if you're as hooked on this story as I am, make sure you're subscribed because what Victor and Sarah are about to face, it's going to test everything they thought they knew about fate, power, and whether the future can truly be changed. The fire marshal thought they were insane. Let me get this straight, Deputy Fire Marshal Patricia Whitmore said, standing in Victor's office the next morning with her arms crossed. You want me to condemn a restaurant and evacuate it during its busiest night of the year because a 9-year-old had a vision? A premonition, Victor corrected calmly. And yes. Based on what evidence? Based on the fact that yesterday, she predicted a catastrophic helicopter malfunction with technical specificity that proved accurate down to the exact component failure. Victor slid a folder across his desk. Torres's full engineering report. The stress fracture Sarah described was exactly where she said it would be. Whitmore flipped through the report, her skepticism wavering slightly. That's concerning. But a mechanical defect and predicting the future are two different things. Are they? Victor leaned forward. She described a swash plate bearing failure in a rear rotor assembly. She's 9. She's never been near a helicopter before yesterday. How do you explain that? I can't, Whitmore admitted. But that doesn't mean I can shut down a business based on 42 lives. Sarah's voice cut through the room. She sat in the corner, sketching in a notebook Victor's assistant had provided. She'd barely slept, spending the night in Victor's penthouse guest room drawing obsessively, the restaurant layout, the kitchen, the table arrangements, the faces of people she'd seen in her vision. Now she looked up, and her eyes held that haunting, ancient quality that made grown adults uncomfortable. 42 people will die tomorrow night if you don't listen, Sarah said quietly. I can give you their names. You can what? Whitmore's eyebrows shot up. Sarah flipped her notebook around. Page after page of sketches, faces, astonishingly detailed for a child's drawings. Beside each face, a name written in careful print. Marco Esposito. He's the owner. 63 years old. He'll be in the kitchen when it happens. Sarah's finger moved to the next sketch. Anna and Thomas Chin. 30th wedding anniversary. They'll be at table 7 with their 3 children and 2 grandchildren. Another page. Rebecca Martinez. 28. She's a teacher. Her boyfriend is going to propose that night. She'll never get to say yes. The room fell silent. Whitmore stepped closer, studying the drawings. Her face had gone pale. How could you possibly know? I see them. Sarah's voice cracked. In the vision, I see everything. Their faces. Their names. What they're wearing. I watch them die, over and over, every time I close my eyes. Tears spilled down her cheeks. So please. Please. Just check the gas line. That's all I'm asking. Check it. Whitmore looked at Victor, then back at Sarah, then at the drawing spread across the desk, 42 faces, rendered with heartbreaking detail. Which gas line specifically? She asked slowly. Sarah closed her eyes, accessing the information that came with her visions. The main supply line. It runs beneath the kitchen floor. There's a section near the industrial stove, the 6-burner range on the east wall. The pipe has corrosion at a join point. It's been leaking slowly for weeks. Tomorrow night, at 8:47 p.m., the pressure builds enough that it ruptures completely. The gas ignites from the stove flame. The explosion kills 3 people immediately. The fire kills 39 more in the next 6 minutes. The precision was chilling. Whitmore pulled out her phone. I'm sending an inspector. If, and that's a very big if, there's actually a corroded gas line, we'll red tag the building. She pointed at Sarah. But if this is some kind of hoax. It's not. Victor's voice carried absolute certainty. And when your inspector finds exactly what Sarah described, I expect you to remember that this child risked her credibility to save lives." Whitmore left, muttering under her breath about billionaires and their eccentricities. The moment she was gone, Sarah slumped in her chair, exhausted. Victor noticed the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands trembled. "When did you last eat?" he asked. "I don't know. I'm not hungry." That wasn't a question. Victor pressed the intercom. "Jennifer, have something sent up from the cafe. Something a kid would actually eat." Within minutes, a tray appeared, grilled cheese, fruit, chocolate milk. Sarah picked at it mechanically, her mind clearly elsewhere. Victor watched her, this strange child who'd crashed into his life less than 24 hours ago and already turned it upside down. His attorneys were working on emergency custody paperwork. His PR team was crafting a statement. His entire organization was pivoting to accommodate the impossible. And for the first time in years, Victor felt like he was doing something that mattered beyond profit margins. His phone buzzed. A text from Whitmore. Inspector found it. Severe corrosion, active leak, exactly where she said. Condemning the building immediately. How the hell did she know? Victor showed the message to Sarah. Relief flooded her face, followed immediately by fresh tears. "They're safe," she whispered. "Marco and Anna and Rebecca. They're all safe. Because of you." Victor felt something unfamiliar in his chest, pride, not in himself, but in someone else. "You saved 42 lives, Sarah. This time." She wiped her eyes. "But there's always another vision. Another disaster. I can't save everyone. I can't." She stopped abruptly, her eyes going unfocused again. "No," she breathed. "No, not now, please." "Sarah?" Victor moved toward her, alarmed. But she was already gone, lost in whatever horror was unfolding behind her eyes. Her breathing quickened. Her fingers clutched the edge of the table, knuckles white. "Water," she gasped. "So much water. The building collapses. People trapped. Screaming. The river," her eyes snapped to Victor's face with sudden, terrified clarity. "Your building. Victor, it's your building." Ice flooded his veins. "Corleone Tower?" "Yes. 10 days from now. There's a storm. The foundation, something's wrong with the foundation. The underground parking floods. The water pressure undermines the support columns. The east side collapses." Her voice rose with panic. "Hundreds of people. Your employees. They're working late. There's a big event. A gala. Everyone's inside when it." She broke off, gasping for air. Victor grabbed her shoulders. "Sarah. Breathe. Look at me. How many casualties?" "I don't know. Too many. The vision's not clear yet. It keeps shifting." She grabbed his arm with desperate strength. "But Victor, it's not just random. The storm, the timing," her eyes widened with a realization that seemed to terrify her. "It's not an accident. Someone wants your building to collapse." The words hung in the air like a bomb. "What do you mean?" Victor's voice went deadly quiet. "Sarah, are you saying someone is going to sabotage Corleone Tower?" "I think so. I see, tools. Someone in the parking garage. Late at night. They're doing something to the supports. Weakening them." She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to force more details. "I can't see their face. But they know exactly what they're doing. They're making it look like the storm damage will be natural. But it's murder. Planned murder." Victor's mind raced. He had enemies, plenty of them. Corporate rivals. Investors he'd outmaneuvered. Former partners who'd tried and failed to destroy him. But this level of planning, this scale of attack. "The gala," he said suddenly. "The Children's Hospital fundraiser. It's in 10 days. We're hosting it in the Tower Ballroom. 300 guests. Politicians, celebrities, major donors. That's what I saw. Sarah's face had gone white. All those people in formal clothes. The moment the building starts to collapse, they panic. Some make it out. Most don't. Victor stood, his strategic mind already shifting into crisis mode. Davis, he shouted. His head of security appeared within seconds. Sir? I need a complete structural inspection of Corleone Tower. Every floor, every support column, every inch of the foundation. And I need security footage from the underground parking garage for the past 6 months. Someone's been tampering with the building's structural integrity. Davis's face went hard. You're certain? Certain enough. Victor glanced at Sarah. She's been right about everything else. I'll assemble a team immediately. As Davis left, Victor's phone rang. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Corleone. The voice was female, cold, artificially modulated to disguise identity. I hear you've acquired an interesting new asset. Every muscle in Victor's body tensed. Who is this? Someone who's very interested in your little fortune teller. Tell me, has she warned you about the storm yet? The blood drained from Victor's face. Across the room, Sarah gasped, she could hear the voice through the phone speaker. How do you know about that? Victor demanded. A low laugh. Because I'm the one who's going to make it happen. And there's nothing you or your pet psychic can do to stop it. The voice hardened. Here's what's going to happen, Mr. Corleone. You're going to send the girl to me. Voluntarily. Or I will personally ensure that not just your building, but everyone you've ever cared about, dies screaming. I don't respond well to threats. This isn't a threat. It's a fact. Background noise suggested the caller was moving. Sarah Connor is a valuable commodity. She doesn't belong with you. She belongs with people who understand what she is and how to properly utilize her gifts. She's a child, not a commodity. She's a weapon. And you're wasting her potential playing house. The voice sharpened. You have 72 hours to deliver her to the address I'm texting you. If you refuse, if you run, if you contact the authorities, the timeline accelerates. The building collapses early. Your people die. And then I come for the girl anyway. The line went dead. Victor stared at his phone, rage and fear warring in his chest. A moment later, a text arrived with an address in Queens and a time, 72 hours. Sarah had gone absolutely still, her face drained of color. They know about me, she whispered. How do they know about me? Victor's mind raced through possibilities. The helicopter incident had been contained, only his inner circle knew the details. The restaurant fire had been attributed to a routine inspection. There was no public knowledge of Sarah's abilities. Which meant someone very close to him had talked. Or someone had been watching Sarah long before she appeared on his helipad. Jennifer. Victor called. His assistant appeared, tablet in hand. Yes? I need a complete background check on everyone who's had access to Sarah since she arrived. Staff, security, maintenance, everyone. And I need it yesterday. Jennifer's eyes widened. Victor, what's going on? We have a leak. Someone knows about Sarah's abilities and they're using that information to threaten us. Before Jennifer could respond, the building's fire alarm screamed to life. Davis burst into the office. Sir, we need to evacuate. Now. There's a fire on the 43rd floor. Origin unknown. It's spreading fast. Sarah's face went white. No. No, that's not, I didn't see this. There wasn't supposed to be a fire here. Victor grabbed her hand. Can fires be started without you seeing them? I don't know. Maybe? Panic edged her voice. My visions show disasters, but I don't see everything. Maybe someone, realization hit. It's a distraction. Or a test. They're watching to see what we do. Victor's jaw clenched. Whoever had called him was making a point. They could strike anywhere, anytime, and Sarah's gift wasn't omniscient. We're leaving. Now. He pulled Sarah toward the door. But she dug her heels in, her eyes going unfocused again. Wait. The stairs. Don't take the stairs. Sarah, we have to. The east stairwell. Her voice rose with urgency. Someone's waiting. Third floor landing. They have a gun. They're going to, she gasped. Victor, they're going to shoot you the moment you open the door. It's a trap. The fire, the alarm, all of it is to funnel us into the stairwell. Davis's hand went to his weapon. Sir, if she's right. She's been right about everything else. Victor's mind raced. Alternative exit? Service elevator to the basement. Private garage exit. Do it. They moved quickly through the chaos, employees streaming toward exits, smoke beginning to seep through ventilation, alarms blaring. Victor kept Sarah close, his hand protective on her shoulder. Davis led them through a maintenance corridor to a private elevator that required his biometric signature. As they descended, Sarah's breathing came in short gasps. This is because of me. They're hurting people because of me. No. Victor crouched to her level. They're hurting people because they're monsters who want to exploit your gift. That's not your fault. But if I just went with them? Absolutely not. Victor's voice turned to steel. Sarah, listen to me. I don't know who these people are or what they want, but I know this, you are not a commodity to be traded. You're a person. And I protect what's mine. I'm yours? Sarah's voice was small, hopeful. You saved my life. That makes you mine to protect. Victor surprised himself with how much he meant it. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Understood? Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. The elevator opened to the underground garage. Davis's car waited, engine running. They'd almost reached it when Sarah screamed. Down. Victor tackled her to the ground as gunfire erupted, bullets pinging off concrete columns. Davis returned fire, his shots precise and controlled. 2 shooters, no, 3, positioned throughout the garage. North exit. Davis shouted, providing cover. Victor pulled Sarah up, running in a crouch toward the emergency exit. Behind them, more gunfire. A bullet whined past Victor's head, so close he felt the air displacement. They burst through the exit door into an alley. A black SUV screeched around the corner, sliding to a stop. The door flew open. Get in. Jennifer screamed from the driver's seat. Victor shoved Sarah into the back seat and dove in after her. Davis followed, still firing behind them. The SUV peeled out, tires smoking. How did you, Victor started. Davis texted me the second you left the office. I brought the car around. Jennifer's knuckles were white on the wheel. Where are we going? Anywhere but here. Victor pulled Sarah close. She was trembling violently, her small body racked with adrenaline and fear. I'm sorry, she sobbed into his shoulder. I'm so sorry. I should have seen this. I should have. You saved us. Again. Victor held her tight, his own heart hammering. Sarah, you told us about the stairwell trap. If we'd gone that way, they would have killed you, she finished. I saw it when you touched the door handle. Just a flash. Enough to warn you. Jennifer glanced in the rearview mirror. Someone want to tell me what the hell is happening? Who's trying to kill us? Someone who knows about Sarah's abilities, Victor said grimly. Someone with resources, inside information, and absolutely no conscience. His phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number, tick-tock, Mr. Corleone. 69 hours remaining. Next time I won't miss. Victor looked down at Sarah, at this extraordinary child who'd been thrust into his life and turned it into a war zone. She looked back up at him with eyes that had seen too much death, too much pain. "They're not going to stop, are they?" she whispered. "No," Victor admitted. "They're not." "Then what do we do?" Victor's expression hardened into something his corporate enemies would recognize, the look he got when someone tried to take what was his. "We fight back," he said quietly. "We figure out who they are, what they want, and we destroy them before they can hurt anyone else." "How?" "By using the one advantage they don't expect." Victor managed a grim smile. "You can see the future, Sarah. That means we can see them coming. We just have to learn how to look." As Jennifer drove them toward a safe house Victor kept for emergencies, as Davis coordinated with security teams, as smoke billowed from Corleone Tower behind them, Victor Corleone made a decision. He'd spent 20 years building an empire based on strategy, ruthlessness, and staying 3 steps ahead of his enemies. Now he had a secret weapon they couldn't match, a 9-year-old girl who could see tomorrow. The question was whether tomorrow would arrive before their enemies struck again. And whether Sarah's visions could show them the truth fast enough to survive what was coming. The safe house was a penthouse in Brooklyn Heights, one of 3 properties Victor owned under shell corporations that even his closest advisors didn't know about. Old habits from his early days, when he'd learned that having an escape route meant the difference between survival and destruction. Sarah stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at the Manhattan skyline across the East River. Smoke still rose from Corleone Tower, a dark smudge against the afternoon sky. Emergency vehicles clustered around the base like toys. 6 people hurt, she said quietly. "I've been watching the news. 6 people injured in the fire because I didn't see it coming." "That's not on you." Victor emerged from the bedroom, having changed from his smoke-damaged suit into jeans and a sweater, civilian clothes that felt foreign after years of armor-like tailoring. "Whoever set that fire is responsible, not you. But if I could just see everything." "You'd drive yourself insane." Victor joined her at the window. "Sarah, your gift shows you specific events. You can't blame yourself for not being omniscient." She turned to face him, and the exhaustion in her eyes made her look even younger than 9. "How do you do it?" "Stay calm when people are trying to kill you." "Practice." Victor's smile was humorless. "And rage." "Controlled rage is a very useful tool." "I'm too scared to be angry." "Fear and anger aren't mutually exclusive." He crouched to her level. "You can be terrified and furious at the same time." "Trust me, I am." Jennifer entered from the kitchen, carrying coffee for the adults and hot chocolate for Sarah. "Davis just called. Buildings secured. Fire's out. Investigators are calling it arson, accelerant used on the 43rd floor. And they found the shooters in the garage." "Dead or alive?" Victor asked. "Dead. All 3. Davis says they had cyanide capsules. Took them the moment they realized they couldn't escape." Sarah's hot chocolate mug clattered against the saucer. "They killed themselves rather than be caught?" "Which tells us we're dealing with professionals," Victor said grimly. "Well-funded, well-trained, and fanatically loyal to whoever hired them." His phone buzzed. Another unknown number, but a different one. Victor's instinct screamed trap, but he answered anyway, putting it on speaker. "Mr. Corleone. This is Dr. Elena Novak." The name meant nothing to Victor. "Should I know you?" "Not yet." The woman's voice was older, cultured, with a faint Eastern European accent. "But I know you. More importantly, I know Sarah Connor. And I know what she can do." Sarah moved closer to Victor instinctively. "I'm not with the people who attacked you today," Dr. Novak continued. "In fact, I'm calling to warn you about them. They call themselves the Consortium. They're a private organization that's been tracking individuals with Sarah's particular abilities for decades." Victor's blood chilled. "There are others like Sarah?" "A few. Very few." Genuine precognition is extraordinarily rare. Most psychic phenomena can be explained by cold reading, probability, or simple fraud. But true seers? A pause. Sarah is perhaps the 6th confirmed case I've documented in 30 years of research. What happened to the other 5? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. The silence that followed was answer enough. They were acquired by the consortium, Dr. Novak said finally. Studied. Utilized. Until their gifts burned them out or they became non-functional. You mean they died, Victor said flatly. Or wished they had. The consortium doesn't view seers as people, Mr. Corleone. They view them as tools. Weapons. They've used precognitives to manipulate stock markets, predict political outcomes, prevent or cause disasters depending on who pays them. Her voice hardened. They are extraordinarily dangerous, and they will not stop until they have Sarah. Jennifer's face had gone pale. Davis, who'd just entered the apartment, immediately began checking windows and exits. Why are you telling me this? Victor demanded. Because I've spent my career trying to protect people like Sarah. And because I'm offering you an alternative. Dr. Novak's tone shifted, becoming almost gentle. There's a facility. In Switzerland. Completely off-grid, fully secured. It's designed to shelter and study individuals with extraordinary abilities in a safe, ethical environment. Sarah would be protected there. Trained to understand and control her gift. She'd be with others like her. No. Sarah's voice cut through the room like a blade. I'm not going to another facility. Another place where I'm not a person, just something to be studied. Sarah, it's not like that. Isn't it? The girl's hands clenched into fists. You want to take me away from the first person who's actually listened to me, who's actually protected me, and lock me in some compound because it's for my own good? Her voice rose. That's what everyone always says. The social workers. The foster parents. The doctors who wanted to medicate me when I told them about the visions. It's for your own good, Sarah. Well, I'm tired of people deciding what's good for me. Sarah, Dr. Novak tried again. If you really wanted to help, you'd help us stop the consortium, Sarah continued, her fear transforming into anger, the kind Victor had told her she was allowed to feel. Not just hide from them. Victor felt a surge of pride so strong it surprised him. This child, who'd been invisible and dismissed her entire life, was finding her voice. She's right, he said into the phone. We're not running. We're fighting. So unless you can provide actionable intelligence about who's hunting us and how to stop them, Dr. Novak, this conversation is over. A long pause. Then, the consortium is run by a woman named Vivian Keller. Former CIA, former MI6, former everything. She went private 15 years ago and built an empire trafficking in information, specifically, information others can't access through conventional means. Precognitives are her most valuable assets. Where is she? That's the problem. Keller moves constantly. Shell corporations, false identities, layers of protection. I've been tracking her for a decade and I've never gotten close. Dr. Novak's frustration was audible. But I know her methods. She'll come at you from multiple angles. Financial pressure. Legal threats. Physical attacks. She'll isolate you, weaken you, and when you're vulnerable, she'll take Sarah. Unless we take her first, Victor said quietly. You can't fight the consortium, Mr. Corleone. They're too powerful, too connected. I've built a $15 billion empire from nothing. I've survived hostile takeovers, federal investigations, and 3 attempts on my life before this week. Victor's voice turned to ice. If Vivian Keller wants a war, she'll get one. But it won't end the way she expects. You're making a mistake. No. The mistake was threatening someone under my protection. Victor ended the call. Jennifer stared at him. Please tell me you have a plan. I'm working on it. Victor turned to Davis. I need everything you can find on Vivian Keller and the consortium. Financial records, property holdings, known associates. Everything. Sir, if they're as connected as Novak says. Then we dig deeper. Hire private investigators. Hackers if necessary. I don't care what it costs. Victor's jaw set. Someone knows where Keller is. We just have to find them. Sarah had moved back to the window, her small frame silhouetted against the city lights. She's right about one thing, she said quietly. They won't stop. And the longer I'm with you, the more danger you're in. We've been over this. No, listen. Sarah turned to face him. What if I could see her? Vivian Keller. If I focused on her specifically, maybe I could see where she is. What she's planning. Victor crossed to her. Can you do that? Control the visions? I don't know. I've never tried. Sarah's hands twisted together. Usually the visions just come. But when you were about to touch that stairwell door, I forced myself to look ahead. Just a few seconds. It worked then. Maybe I could do it again with more time. It could be dangerous, Jennifer warned. We don't know how her abilities work. Forcing visions could give us the advantage we need, Victor finished. He looked at Sarah seriously. But Jennifer's right. We don't know if this could hurt you. I won't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Sarah's chin lifted with determination. They killed people today because of me. The fire, the shooters, all of it was to get to me. I'm not going to just hide while more people die. You're 9 years old. I'm 9 years old with a gift that can save lives. Or end them, depending on who controls it. Sarah met his eyes. You said we'd face this together. Let me help. Please. Victor saw himself in her, the desperation to matter, to be more than circumstances dictated, to fight back against a world that had tried to crush them. He'd been older when he made his stand, but the core determination was the same. Okay, he said finally. But we do this carefully. And if at any point it's too much, you stop. Agreed? Sarah nodded. They sat up in the living room, Sarah on the couch, Victor beside her, Jennifer and Davis watching with barely concealed concern. The girl closed her eyes, her small hands clenched in her lap. I'm thinking about her, Sarah murmured. Vivian Keller. The woman hunting me. Where is she? What is she planning? Nothing happened for long moments. Then Sarah's breathing changed, became faster, shallower. I see, an office. Very modern. Glass and steel. High up. City view, but I can't tell which city. Her voice took on that distant, hollow quality. She's on the phone. Angry. Someone failed her. The attack today, it wasn't supposed to go that way. We weren't supposed to escape. Victor leaned forward. What does she look like? Older. Maybe 60? But fit. Strong. Silver hair cut short. She's wearing. Sarah frowned. Expensive clothes. There's a scar on her left hand. Shaped like a crescent moon. What's she saying? Sarah's face contorted with concentration. She's talking about contingencies. Plan B. She's moving up the timeline. The building collapse, it's not in 10 days anymore. Her eyes snapped open, wide with terror. 5 days. She's accelerating everything. The storm is coming in 5 days, and she's already weakened the supports. Victor, your building is going to collapse in 5 days. How many casualties? Davis asked sharply. Sarah closed her eyes again, forcing herself back into the vision. I see, the gala. But it's different now. Moved up. Emergency rescheduling. You're trying to cancel it, but there's pressure. Someone important insists it happens on schedule. She gasped. The mayor. The mayor's chief of staff is on Keller's payroll. They're forcing the event to happen. Making sure maximum people are in the building when it falls. Names, Victor demanded. Sarah, I need names. Who's the chief of staff? Robert. Robert Dawson. Sarah's voice strained. He's been taking payments for 6 months. Keller has files on him. Blackmail material. He does what she says or she destroys his life. Victor was already texting his legal team. Jennifer, get me everything on Robert Dawson. Financial records, phone logs, meetings with the mayor's office. On it. Sarah's breathing became labored. Sweat beaded on her forehead. There's more. I see, other people. In different cities. More children like me. Keller has them. She's using them. Making them see things, predict things. They're so tired. So broken. They wanted to stop but she won't let them. Sarah. Victor gripped her shoulder. That's enough. Come back. But she couldn't. The vision had her in its grip. There's a boy. 12 years old. Daniel. She's had him for 3 years. He's trying to see you, Victor. Trying to warn you. He knows about me. He can feel me looking. Sarah's body went rigid. He's sending me something. A message. A location. He says Keller keeps files. Physical files, not digital. Too dangerous to store electronically. They're in, she screamed. Victor caught her as she collapsed, her small body convulsing. Sarah. Sarah. Her eyes rolled back. Blood trickled from her nose. Call an ambulance. Jennifer shouted. No. Victor pulled Sarah into his lap, holding her tight. No hospitals. They'll be watching hospitals. Sarah, come back to me. Follow my voice. Come back. For terrifying seconds, she didn't respond. Then her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glazed. Did I help? She whispered. You helped. Victor's throat was tight. You helped so much. But you're not doing that again. It's too dangerous. Had to. Daniel. The other boy. He's trying to help us. Keller doesn't know he can communicate with other seers. He's been hiding it. Sarah's voice was fading. The files. He said the files are in a place called Blackwood Estate. Virginia. She thinks no one knows but Daniel saw it when she was thinking about. Her eyes closed. This time, she simply slept, exhausted beyond measure. Victor held her, this small warrior who'd pushed herself past her limits to give them a fighting chance. Jennifer draped a blanket over both of them. Blackwood Estate, Davis said, already typing on his tablet. Got it. Private estate in rural Virginia. Purchased 8 years ago by a shell corporation. No public records of who owns it. Heavy security. No satellite imagery available, someone's paying to keep it off the grid. That's where Keller keeps her secrets, Victor said quietly. And possibly where she's keeping the other seers. You can't be thinking of breaking into a fortified compound, Jennifer said. Victor, that's insane. Is it? We have 5 days before my building collapses and kills hundreds of people. 5 days to expose Keller's corruption and save those children she's enslaved. Victor's expression hardened. I've done more with less time. Sir, even with our resources, infiltrating that kind of facility, Davis shook his head. We'd need a team. Planning. Intelligence we don't have. Then we get it. Victor gently shifted Sarah to the couch, tucking the blanket around her. Davis, I need you to assemble a team. People you trust absolutely. Former military, preferably. People who know how to move quietly and hit hard. For what purpose, exactly? We're going to Virginia. We're going to break into Blackwood Estate. We're going to get those files and free those children. Victor stood, and his eyes held the same ruthless determination that had built his empire. And then we're going to destroy Vivian Keller and everyone who works for her. Jennifer and Davis exchanged glances. You're serious, Jennifer said. You're actually going to war with a shadow organization that's already tried to kill us twice. They made it war when they came after Sarah. Victor moved to the window, looking out at the city. I've spent 20 years playing by rules designed to keep people like me in our place. Building wealth, yes, but always within acceptable boundaries. Never pushing too hard. Never making waves. He turned back to face them. But Sarah doesn't fit in acceptable boundaries. What she can do, what those other children can do, it's extraordinary. And Keller wants to turn that into a weapon. So what do you want to turn it into? Davis asked. A shield. Victor's voice was firm. Sarah saved my life. Saved 42 people at that restaurant. She's trying to save hundreds more. She deserves protection, not exploitation. They all do. His phone buzzed. A text from another unknown number. This time, the message made his blood run cold. Touching speech. I'm watching you right now, Corleone. Through the window. Nice penthouse. Did you really think I couldn't find you? Victor spun toward the window. Across the river, on a rooftop in Manhattan, a figure stood silhouetted against the night sky. Too far to identify, but close enough to send a message. Close enough to be holding a sniper rifle. Get down. Victor dove toward Sarah as the window exploded inward. Glass showered the room. Davis tackled Jennifer. Victor covered Sarah's body with his own as bullets punched through furniture, walls, lighting fixtures. The shooting stopped as abruptly as it started. In the ringing silence, Sarah stirred beneath Victor. Are you okay? He asked urgently. I'm fine. You? Her voice was small but steady. Fine. Victor helped her up, crunching over broken glass. The living room looked like a war zone. But miraculously, no one was hit. Another text, warning shot. Next time I won't miss. 67 hours remaining. Bring me the girl, or everyone you love dies. Victor stared at the message, then at Sarah's pale, frightened face. Then he did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He laughed. Sir? Davis looked at him like he'd lost his mind. She's desperate. Victor's eyes gleamed with sudden understanding. Don't you see? If Keller was in control, she'd have taken Sarah by now. But she can't get to us directly. The attack today failed. The sniper missed, deliberately or not, I don't know, but she missed. Keller's threatening us because threats are all she has left. Or she's playing with us, Jennifer countered. Maybe. But I don't think so. Victor crouched beside Sarah. When you saw her, in the vision, was she confident? In control? Sarah thought back. No. She was angry. Frustrated. Things aren't going according to plan. Because we're not behaving like victims. Victor stood, his strategic mind clicking into place. She's used to people being afraid. Running. Hiding. Giving her what she wants to make the threats stop. But we're not doing that. We're fighting back. And it's throwing her off balance. So what do we do? Sarah asked. Victor's smile was sharp and dangerous. We throw her off balance even more. Davis, move up the timeline. I want that team assembled in 24 hours. Jennifer, leak to the press that the gala is being rescheduled, not cancelled, rescheduled. For 3 days from now. Let Keller think she's won, that we're playing into her hands. But the building, Jennifer started, will be evacuated and inspected top to bottom starting tonight. I'll personally fund round-the-clock structural engineers. We'll find every weakness Keller's saboteurs created and fix them. Victor's voice was steel. She wants to use my building as a weapon? Fine. We'll make it a fortress instead. And the real plan? Davis asked. While Keller's focused on the building and the gala, we hit Blackwood Estate. We get the files. We free the children. And we get enough evidence to expose the consortium so thoroughly that even their connections can't save them. Sarah looked up at him with something like awe. You're going to save them. Daniel and the others. We're going to save them, Victor corrected. Because you're the one who found them, Sarah. You're the one who gave us a chance. For the first time since the shooting started, Sarah smiled, fierce and determined and utterly unafraid. When do we leave for Virginia? Absolutely not, Victor said firmly. You're staying somewhere safe while we... I can help. I can see things you can't. Warn you about dangers. No. Victor's tone left no room for argument. Sarah, you're exhausted. You just had a nosebleed from pushing your abilities too hard. I am not putting you in more danger. But... this is not negotiable. Victor softened his voice. You've done enough. More than enough. Let me protect you now. Please. Sarah wanted to argue, he could see it in her eyes. But exhaustion won. She nodded reluctantly. Okay. But you have to promise me something. What? Promise you'll bring them home. Daniel and the others. Promise you won't leave them there. Victor met her eyes. I promise. Every child we find comes home. You have my word. As Davis began making calls and Jennifer coordinated with structural engineers, as they prepared for a war that would be fought in boardrooms and black ops raids, Victor watched Sarah curl up on the couch, her small hand clutching the blanket. She'd crashed into his life less than 48 hours ago. In that time, she'd saved his life, saved 42 strangers, and was now trying to save hundreds more, all while being hunted by people who saw her as nothing but a tool. She deserved so much better than the hand she'd been dealt. And Victor Corleone was going to make damn sure she got it. Even if it meant burning the consortium to the ground. Blackwood Estate sat in the Virginia woods like a predator waiting to strike. Victor studied it through high-powered binoculars from a ridge half a mile away. Davis crouched beside him with tactical equipment. Behind them, four former Special Forces operatives, hand-picked by Davis, vetted within an inch of their lives, prepared for infiltration. 48 hours. That's all the time they'd had to plan this. Perimeter security is military grade, Davis murmured, reviewing thermal imaging on his tablet. Motion sensors, cameras, armed guards rotating every 4 hours. But there's a gap in coverage on the east side, maintenance access for the septic system. That's intentional, one of the operatives said. Rodriguez, former Navy SEAL. No one leaves a gap like that by accident. It's a trap. Probably, Victor agreed. So we don't use it. He'd left Sarah at a different safe house, this one watched by a security team that included 2 former Secret Service agents. She'd hated it, had begged to help, but Victor had been immovable. She'd already pushed her gift too far. He wouldn't risk her again. But before he left, she'd grabbed his hand. Wait. Let me look. Just once more. Sarah. Please. Just to see if you make it out alive. The fear in her voice had broken something in his chest. So he'd let her try. Just for a moment. Her eyes had gone distant. Then she'd gasped. There's a boy. In the basement. Victor, he's waiting for you. He knows you're coming. He can feel it. Daniel? Yes. He says the files are in Keller's office. 3rd floor, west wing. But there's a safe room. Biometric lock. She'd squeezed his hand tighter. You'll need her. You'll need Keller herself to open it. Now, crouched in the Virginia woods, Victor understood what that meant. They weren't just here to steal files. They were here to take Vivian Keller. Thermal shows 17 people inside, Davis reported. 4 guards on rotation. The rest could be staff, could be the children, could be more security. Or all of the above. Victor lowered the binoculars. We go in quiet. Locate the children first. Get them out. Then we go after Keller and the files. Sir, with all due respect, you shouldn't be going in at all, Rodriguez said. You're not trained for this. No. But I'm the one who made a promise. Victor checked the pistol Davis had given him. He'd fired weapons at ranges but never in combat. His hands were steady anyway. Besides, if this goes wrong, I want to look Keller in the eye when it does. They moved at midnight. Rodriguez led, his movements silent as smoke. Victor followed, acutely aware of how loud his breathing sounded in his own ears. They bypassed the obvious entry points, instead using thermal imaging to find a section of the mansion where the walls showed older construction, likely the original building before expansions. Rodriguez worked on a ground-floor window with tools that seemed too simple for the task, but within 90 seconds, the lock clicked open. Inside, the mansion was obscenely luxurious. Marble floors. Original artwork. Crystal chandeliers dimmed for night. And silence. Heavy, oppressive silence. Too quiet, Davis whispered into his calm, "Where are the children?" They found out 3 minutes later. The basement was accessed through a door disguised as a wine cellar panel. Stone steps descended into darkness. At the bottom, a corridor stretched ahead, and along it, cells. Actual cells with reinforced doors and small windows. Victor's stomach turned. Behind the first door, a girl. Maybe 11. She sat on a narrow bed, staring at nothing. She didn't react when Victor's flashlight found her face. Jesus, Rodriguez breathed. They moved down the corridor. More children. 6 in total. Different ages, different backgrounds. All with that same 1,000-yard stare of people who'd been broken. The last cell held a boy. 12 years old, dark hair, thin to the point of emaciation. But his eyes were sharp, aware. Daniel. The boy stood when he saw Victor. His lips moved. You came. Victor's hands shook as he worked the electronic lock. Davis had a device that should bypass it, but his fingers fumbled. The lock clicked open on its own. Daniel stood on the other side. I unlocked it. I saw which buttons you needed to press. I can see 30 seconds ahead when I concentrate. His voice was hoarse from disuse. The others can't do that anymore. They pushed too hard for too long. Keller burned them out. Rage, white-hot and pure, flooded through Victor. Can you walk? Yes. And I can help. I can see the guards' positions. Where they'll be in 30 seconds. Daniel's eyes met his. Sarah sent you. I felt her looking for me. Tell her thank you. Tell her yourself when we get out of here. Victor handed Daniel off to Rodriguez. Get him and the others to the extraction point. Now. Sir, you need to come with us. Not without Keller. Not without those files. Victor's expression was granite. Go. That's an order. Rodriguez hesitated, then nodded. He and 2 other operatives began moving the children. Some had to be carried, back toward the exit. That left Victor, Davis, and 1 operative named Chen to go upstairs. They found Keller's office exactly where Daniel said it would be. 3rd floor. West wing. The door was ajar. Inside, Vivian Keller sat at her desk as if she'd been expecting them. She was exactly as Sarah had described. Silver hair. Strong features. The crescent scar on her left hand visible as she rested it on the desk. Mr. Corleone. Her voice was cultured, amused. Right on time. Victor's blood turned to ice. You knew we were coming. Of course. I have a precognitive boy in my basement who can see 30 seconds into the future. Did you really think he could hide that from me? Keller smiled. Daniel told me you'd arrive at 12:47 a.m. That you'd free the children. That you'd come for me and the files. Then you also know how this ends. I do. Keller stood. You force me to open the safe. You take the files. You think you've won. She moved to a panel in the wall, pressed her palm to a biometric scanner. A safe door swung open, revealing file boxes. Here. Take them. They won't help you. Victor's instinct screamed. It's a trap. Of course it's a trap. Keller's smile widened. But not the one you think. The files are real. The evidence is real. You can expose the consortium, burn our network to the ground, destroy everything I built. She pulled out a file, tossed it on the desk. Go ahead. Read it. Davis grabbed the file. His face went white. Sir, these are financial records. Payments made by, he looked up at Victor with horror. By Corleone Industries. To the consortium. Dating back 5 years. What? Victor grabbed the file. His own company letterhead. His own signature, or a perfect forgery. Millions in payments classified as consulting fees. I've been setting you up since the moment Sarah Connor appeared on your radar, Keller said pleasantly. Those payments? They'll hold up to forensic accounting. I've been laundering them through your legitimate business expenses for years. The moment you try to expose me, every investigator will find evidence that you've been funding the consortium all along. Victor's mind raced. This is insane. I never authorized. Doesn't matter. The paper trail exists. And when authorities raid my properties, they'll find documents showing that you ordered the kidnapping of precognitive children. That you wanted Sarah for yourself. That everything, the helicopter, the restaurant fire, the building collapse, was orchestrated by you to make yourself look like a hero while actually controlling the girl. Keller leaned against her desk. You came here to destroy me. But all you've done is destroy yourself. Sir, we need to leave, Chen urged. Now. But Victor couldn't move. He saw it now, the entire trap. If they took the files, he'd be implicated. If they left without the files, they had no evidence. Either way, Keller won. You're wondering if there's a way out, Keller said. There isn't. I've been playing this game for 15 years. You've been playing for 3 days. Did you really think? She stopped. Her face went slack with confusion. That's not right, she murmured. That's not what Daniel saw. You're supposed to. The window exploded inward. Keller dove for cover. Victor hit the ground. Chen returned fire at nothing. There was no shooter. Then Sarah Connor stepped through the shattered window. She stood on the 3rd floor ledge in the darkness, backlit by moonlight, looking like some avenging angel. In her hands, she held a brick she'd thrown through the glass. Sarah? Victor's heart stopped. What are you? You said you wouldn't leave them. Sarah's voice was steady, calm, utterly certain. You promised. So I knew you'd come here. And I knew Keller would have a trap. So I came too. The security team. I saw when they'd look away. I snuck out. Followed you. Sarah climbed through the window with surprising grace. And I've been standing out there for 5 minutes, watching through the glass. Listening. Seeing what happens next. She walked toward Keller with no fear. You made a mistake, Sarah said. You assumed Daniel would see everything. But he can only see 30 seconds ahead. I can see hours. Days. And what I saw was this: if Victor takes those files, you win. If he leaves without them, you win. But there's a third option you never considered. What option? Keller's composure had cracked. Sarah smiled. It wasn't a child's smile. The option where I take the files. Not Victor. Me. She began gathering the boxes from the safe. See, you can't implicate a 9-year-old in conspiracy. I'm a minor. A victim. When the authorities find these files in my possession, along with my testimony about being held by you, about the other children you enslaved, it won't matter what paper trail you created. The narrative won't be Billionaire Fund's conspiracy. It'll be child saves other children from evil organization. Keller's face went white. You couldn't have seen that. You're 9 years old, you don't understand. I understand that you see people as tools. As things to be used. Sarah's voice hardened. But I also understand that I'm not a tool. I'm a person. And I get to choose what I do with my gift. She looked at Victor. You said you wanted to turn it into a shield. So let's do that. Let me be the one who brings her down. Victor stared at this extraordinary child who'd turned Keller's trap inside out with pure logic and courage. The files implicate me, he said. Even if you take them. I saw that too. Jennifer's already working with your legal team. By the time these files go public, you'll have forensic accountants proving the signatures are forged, that the payments were unauthorized. Keller was good, but she wasn't perfect. Sarah met his eyes. Trust me. I've seen how this ends. If we do it this way, we win. Keller lunged for a panic button on her desk. Davis shot it, the bullet destroying the mechanism. You're making a mistake, Keller hissed. The consortium is bigger than me. You destroy me, someone else takes over. You can't win. Maybe not forever. Victor stood, moving to stand beside Sarah. But we can win today. We can save these children. We can expose you. And that's enough. Keller's expression twisted with rage and something else, fear. Real fear. Because for the first time in 15 years, someone had outmaneuvered her. A 9-year-old girl who could see the future. The victory was intoxicating, but brief. As Davis and Chen secured Keller, as Sarah stood beside Victor, a pile of incriminating files at her feet, Daniel, the boy from the basement, stumbled into the office, his face ashen. No, he gasped, his eyes unfocused. No. Daniel, what is it? Victor asked, his hand instinctively going to Sarah's shoulder. The extraction team. The children. They were almost out. Daniel's voice trembled with a new vision. But there was a second team. Keller's reinforcements. They were waiting. They have them. They have all of them. Rodriguez, the others, they're all dead. The air left the room. What? Davis's voice was raw disbelief. Keller laughed. A cold, ugly sound. Did you really think I wouldn't have a contingency? My people were instructed to wait. If they didn't hear from me by 1:30 a.m., they were to secure the assets. That means the children. Sarah's face crumpled. The other children, they were almost free. They were never free, Keller sneered. They were just bait. Bait to get you here, Sarah. My team has new orders now, retrieve you and terminate everyone else. As if on cue, the house plunged into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, casting the office in a hellish red glow. The sound of automatic gunfire erupted from outside. They're coming, Chen said, his face grim as he peered through the shattered window. At least a dozen of them. And they have the kids as shields. Victor's heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. They had won, only to lose everything. The children they'd come to save were now hostages. His elite team was dead. And they were trapped on the 3rd floor of a mansion swarming with professional killers. Give me Sarah, Keller said, her voice calm amidst the chaos. Give me the girl and I'll let you walk away. Never, Victor snarled, pulling Sarah behind him. Then you all die here. Davis shoved Keller into the safe room and slammed the door. We need a way out. Now. There is no way out, Chen reported from the window. They have every exit covered. Sarah's hand tightened on Victor's. I can't see a way out, she whispered, her voice choked with terror. Every path I look down, we die. They corner us. She sobbed. I can't find a future where we survive. Despair, cold and absolute, washed over Victor. He'd been so sure, so confident. He'd charged into this battle like an invincible king, only to lead them all to their deaths. He looked at Sarah, at this brave, broken child who had trusted him. And he had failed her. There's a helicopter, Daniel whispered, his eyes distant. On the roof. Keller's private transport. It's our only chance. They'll have the roof covered, Davis countered. They will. Daniel's gaze sharpened, focusing on Victor. But for 20 seconds at 1:48 a.m., the guards on the east side of the roof will be distracted. A communications malfunction. For 20 seconds, there's a window. A 20-second window to get 3 adults and 2 children across an open roof to a helicopter? Chin shook his head. Impossible. It's all we have, Victor said, his mind latching onto the sliver of hope. We have to try. But Sarah shook her head, tears streaming down her face. It's a trap, Victor. I can see it. We get to the helicopter. We take off. But there's a bomb on board. It detonates over the woods. We all die. The last flicker of hope died. She's right, Keller's voice echoed from the safe room. I always have a contingency for my contingencies. There is no escape. This is the end of the line, Mr. Corleone. They were trapped. Surrounded. No way out. Every possible future ended in fire and death. Victor pulled Sarah close, shielding her as if his body could somehow protect her from fate itself. The sound of heavy boots pounding up the stairs grew louder. Doors were being kicked in down the hall. I'm sorry, Victor whispered into Sarah's hair. I'm so sorry. I promised I'd protect you. You did, she sobbed. You believed me. That's more than anyone else ever did. In that moment of absolute hopelessness, surrounded by enemies, with every path to survival cut off, Victor Corleone felt his empire, his wealth, his power, crumble to dust. None of it mattered. All that mattered was the terrified child in his arms. The door to the office burst open. Armed figures in black tactical gear flooded in, weapons raised. It was over. Victor braced for the end, his body a shield over Sarah's. The armed figures swarmed the room, weapons trained on them. This was it. The future Sarah had seen. Death. But the killing shot never came. Instead, the leader of the tactical team raised a gloved hand. Stand down. The voice was female, calm, and familiar. The figure stepped into the red emergency light and removed her helmet. Dr. Elena Novak. Victor stared, completely stunned. You? I told you that you couldn't fight the consortium alone, Mr. Corleone, Novak said, her eyes sharp. I never said you had to. Her team moved with practiced efficiency, securing the room. One of them pulled a dazed Vivian Keller from the safe, cuffing her. But, how? Victor managed, helping a trembling Sarah to her feet. Sarah saw us die. Every time. There was no way out. Because she can't see what she doesn't know, Novak explained, her gaze softening as she looked at Sarah. Her gift is powerful, but it's tied to the choices of the people within her sphere of knowledge. She couldn't see a future where my team intervened because she didn't know we were here, waiting in the woods for Keller to make her move. The revelation struck Victor with the force of a physical blow. Sarah's visions weren't of an absolute, unchangeable fate. They were a map of possibilities based on the players she knew were on the board. Sarah looked up, her tear-streaked face filled with dawning understanding. So. I wasn't wrong? The visions were real? They were, Novak affirmed gently. You saw the only future you and Victor could create on your own. But we just introduced a new variable. Hope, fierce and brilliant, ignited in Victor's chest. He looked at Sarah, at this child who had borne the weight of a terrible, limited omniscience, and saw not a failed oracle, but a fighter who had done the impossible with the tools she had. "You were never wrong," Victor said, his voice thick with emotion. "You were just seeing the board we were given. Now we have new pieces." One of Novak's soldiers spoke into his comm. "Ma'am, Keller's reinforcements are moving the other children. They're loading them into an armored transport on the north side of the estate. We have a 3-minute window to intercept before they're gone." The despair was gone. In its place was steel. Victor looked at Novak, then at Davis and Sarah. The team wasn't broken. It was bigger now. Stronger. "We're not leaving them," Sarah said, her voice small but firm. "Never." Victor met Novak's gaze, a silent question passing between them. Novak nodded, a grim smile touching her lips. "My team will secure the house." "You wanted to save those children, Mr. Corleone? Here's your chance." They moved, a new, unified force surging through the mansion. The hopelessness of the darkest hour had burned away, leaving behind a searing, determined courage. They had a chance, a real chance, one that even Sarah hadn't been able to see. And they were going to take it. And just like that, there's hope. That twist with Dr. Novak, did you see it coming? Let me know what you think in the comments. The final battle is about to begin. If you're not subscribed, hit that button now, because you are not going to want to miss this climax. The north lawn was chaos. An armored transport vehicle sat with its engine rumbling, its rear doors open. Keller's remaining mercenaries were forcing the terrified children inside, Daniel and the 5 others from the basement. The mercenaries were using them as human shields, their weapons trained on the mansion. Victor, Sarah, and Davis took cover behind a stone balustrade, watching the scene unfold. Dr. Novak's team was flanking, moving into position, but couldn't get a clear shot without endangering the children. "They're going to get away," Davis said, his voice tight with frustration. "We can't risk a firefight." "I know." Victor's mind raced, processing strategies, angles, possibilities. This wasn't a boardroom, it was a battlefield. But the principles were the same: find your opponent's weakness and exploit it without mercy. "The driver," Sarah whispered, her eyes unfocused. "He's nervous. He keeps checking his watch. He has a family. He doesn't want to die here." Victor's gaze snapped to the transport's driver's side window. A man, barely visible, his face tense. "And Daniel," Sarah continued, her voice gaining strength as she focused her gift, "he's trying to talk to me. He says the mercenaries are communicating on a closed channel. He can't hear them, but he can see the leader's hands." Her breath hitched. "Victor, the leader just gave the signal. In 30 seconds, once all the children are inside, he's going to order them to open fire on the house to create a diversion. He's going to kill us all anyway." 30 seconds. It was an impossible timeline. "Novak," Victor said into the comm, "I need a distraction. On the east side of the estate. Something big. Loud. Now." "On it," Novak's voice came back, no questions asked. "Sarah," Victor said, his voice low and urgent. "Look at the driver again. What's his greatest fear?" Sarah squeezed her eyes shut. "His daughter. Her name is Emily. She's sick. He's only doing this for the money to pay her medical bills. He's terrified he'll never see her again." A plan, desperate and insane, solidified in Victor's mind. He looked at Davis. "Cover me." "Sir, you can't." "Cover me." Before Davis could argue, a massive explosion rocked the east side of the estate, a controlled demolition charge from Novak's team. The mercenaries on the lawn flinched, their attention momentarily diverted. It was the only opening Victor would get. He broke cover. He didn't run toward the children. He ran toward the driver's side of the transport, weapon down, hands held out to show he wasn't a threat. "Don't shoot," he yelled. "I'm unarmed." The mercenaries' attention snapped back to him. The leader barked an order. A half-dozen rifles swung to track him. "What are you doing?" Davis yelled, his own rifle up but with no clear shot. "My name is Victor Corleone," Victor shouted, his voice carrying across the lawn. He was 20 feet from the transport now, completely exposed. "I know why you're here. I know about your daughter, Emily." The driver's head whipped around. His eyes, wide with shock and fear, met Victor's. "You don't have to do this," Victor continued, still walking steadily forward. "Whatever Keller is paying you, I'll triple it. I'll pay for all of Emily's medical care. For the rest of her life. I'll set up a trust fund. She will never want for anything. You have my word." The leader of the mercenaries shouted, "He's bluffing. Kill him." But the driver's hesitation was palpable. For a split second, the chain of command was broken. And a split second was all Daniel needed. The boy, who was being pushed up the ramp into the transport, suddenly twisted. He couldn't fight, but he could see 30 seconds into the future. He saw exactly where the nearest guard would stumble. Daniel dropped to the ground, a calculated, clumsy fall that sent the guard tumbling over him. The chaos of that single moment cascaded. Another guard turned to help his comrade. The children, seeing their chance, scattered. Davis and Novak's team opened fire. Not at the mercenaries holding the children, but at the ones who were now exposed. Precise, controlled shots. The mercenaries went down one by one. The leader, his human shields gone, aimed his rifle at Victor. A single shot rang out from the mansion's third-floor window. The mercenary leader crumpled to the ground. Victor looked up. Sarah stood in the shattered window frame, holding Chen's sniper rifle, her small body steady, her expression one of grim, absolute resolve. She hadn't fired the weapon. Chen stood behind her, his hand over hers, having guided the shot. But the decision, the courage to stand in the line of fire and be the final piece of the puzzle, had been all Sarah's. The fight was over in less than 20 seconds. The driver of the transport, hands raised, slowly got out of the vehicle, tears streaming down his face. Victor walked over to him, his heart hammering. "You made the right choice. My daughter." The man choked out. "Will be taken care of," Victor said, and he meant it. "You have my word." Davis and Novak's team were securing the remaining mercenaries and gathering the children. Daniel ran straight to Victor, throwing his arms around his waist. "We did it," he gasped. "We actually did it." "You did it, Daniel," Victor said, his hand on the boy's head. "You started this." He looked up at the mansion, at Sarah, who was being helped away from the window by Chen. She'd done more than just see the future. She had actively, bravely, stepped up to shape it. She hadn't just been a shield, she'd been a sword. Later, as the sun began to rise, Victor stood on the lawn with Sarah. The other children were safe inside, being tended to by Novak's medics. Vivian Keller and her entire operation were in custody. The files were secure. "You were very brave," Victor said quietly. "I was terrified," Sarah admitted. "But I saw you running out there. And I knew. I had to do something, too. I couldn't just watch." She looked up at him, her eyes clear and bright, the haunted look finally gone. "I saw another future. Just a flash. After the shooting stopped." "What did you see?" A real smile, a genuine child's smile, lit up her face. "I saw us. And Daniel, and the other kids. We were home. And we were safe." Victor put his arm around her small shoulders, pulling her into a one-armed hug. He looked at the children being led out of the mansion, blinking in the morning light, free for the first time in years. He looked at the remnants of a battle that should have been impossible to win. He had come here to save one child and had ended up saving 7. He'd gone to war with a monster and, with the help of a brave little girl and a team of loyal people, he had won. "Yeah," Victor said, his voice thick with emotion as he looked at the dawn. "We're going home. Victory. Triumph. They did it. my heart is still pounding. The way they all worked together, Victor's negotiation, Daniel's timing, Sarah's courage, it was perfect. What was your favorite moment of that climax? Let me know in the comments. And please, if this story moved you, make sure you're subscribed, because the conclusion is going to be the emotional payoff we've all been waiting for. 6 months later, Corleone Tower wasn't a monument to power, but a beacon of life. The glass on the 43rd floor and in the penthouse had been replaced. The structural weaknesses, so carefully engineered by Keller's saboteurs, had been reinforced with triple redundant steel, making it arguably the safest skyscraper in New York. The gala had been rescheduled and had raised a record-breaking $22 million for the Children's Hospital. Victor Corleone stood on his private helipad, the very spot where his life had irrevocably changed. A brand new helicopter sat gleaming in the afternoon sun, but he wasn't flying today. He was watching. On the far side of the helipad, which was now lined with reinforced safety glass and comfortable benches, Sarah Connor was teaching Daniel and 2 of the other children, a quiet girl named Maya and a boisterous 7-year-old named Leo, how to play chess. "No, Leo, the horsey can't just jump over everything," Sarah said with the exaggerated patience of a seasoned older sister. "It has to move in an L shape. See?" Daniel, who had gained weight and whose eyes were no longer haunted, smirked. 30 seconds ago, you were about to move your bishop into my knight's path. Bad move. I know, Sarah shot back without looking up. I was baiting you. I saw you seeing it, so I changed my mind. Now, are you going to move or just talk? Victor smiled. Sarah's gift hadn't vanished. In fact, under Dr. Novak's guidance, Novak now served as a consultant for the newly established Corleone Foundation for Exceptional Children. She was learning to control it. The visions no longer ruled her, she ruled them. She could summon them for brief, controlled moments, or push them away entirely, allowing herself to just be a kid. The other children were healing, too. They lived in a sprawling brownstone in the West Village that Victor had purchased and converted into a proper home, with full-time staff, tutors, and therapists, all overseen by Novak. It wasn't an institution, it was a family. The legal and public fallout from the raid on Blackwood Estate had been seismic. The story Sarah had predicted, "Child saves other children," had dominated headlines for weeks. With the files she'd recovered, backed by the testimony of the rescued children and the driver Victor had spared, the consortium was systematically dismantled. Vivian Keller, facing a mountain of charges from kidnapping to conspiracy to commit murder, had accepted a life sentence without parole. The forged documents implicating Victor had unraveled under the scrutiny of his legal team and forensic accountants. His reputation, far from being destroyed, had been transformed. He was no longer just a ruthless billionaire. He was a protector. A hero, though he cringed at the word. Enjoying the view? Jennifer walked onto the helipad, no longer his assistant, but the newly appointed director of the Corleone Foundation. She had found a purpose far more fulfilling than managing Victor's schedule. "It's a good view," Victor admitted. "Heard from Davis?" she asked. "This morning. He's in Brazil. Tracked down another one of Keller's splinter cells. 2 more children are safe." Davis now ran a global security initiative, funded by Victor, dedicated to finding and rescuing other individuals being exploited for their gifts. "You've changed, you know," Jennifer said, her tone warm. The old Victor would have been focused on the Q3 earnings report right now, not a chess game. "The old Victor would have died in a helicopter crash 6 months ago," he said simply. "Everything after that has been a bonus." He'd discovered a truth he'd long forgotten: power wasn't about controlling markets, it was about protecting people. Wealth wasn't about accumulation, it was about what you did with it. He'd spent 20 years building an empire of glass and steel, but this, the family he was building, the lives he was saving, felt far more real and lasting. "Dad." Sarah called, waving him over. "Daniel's cheating. He keeps looking into the future to see my moves." The word still sent a jolt through him. 2 months ago, the adoption had been finalized. Sarah Connor was now Sarah Corleone. She wasn't a ward or a responsibility. She was his daughter. Daniel, you know the rules, Victor said, walking over. No peeking past the present. I can't help it. Daniel protested, laughing. Her strategy is so bad, I have to look ahead to see if it gets any better. Sarah playfully shoved him. For the first time, she was free to be a normal kid, squabbling with her brother. As Victor sat down with them, a comfortable warmth spread through his chest, something he thought he'd never feel again. Love. Family. A sense of peace that no billion-dollar acquisition could ever provide. Later that evening, after the other children were asleep, Victor found Sarah standing at the penthouse window, looking out at the city lights. You're quiet tonight, he said, coming to stand beside her. I was just thinking, she said, leaning her head against his side. About that first day. On the roof. I was so scared. I really thought you were going to get in that helicopter. I almost did. He looked down at her, his heart swelling with a fierce, protective love. But then I saw you. And for some reason, I listened. Why did you? She asked, a question she'd never voiced before. You didn't know me. I was just some crazy kid. Victor thought for a moment. Because I think, deep down, I was a lot like you. I spent my whole life feeling like I could see things other people couldn't, market trends, weaknesses, opportunities. I felt like I was shouting warnings that no one was listening to. When I saw that same desperation in your eyes, I think I recognized it. He put his arm around her. You saved me that day, Sarah. And not just from the crash. You saved me from the man I was becoming. She hugged him tightly. We saved each other. She fell silent for a moment, and Victor felt a familiar tension in her. You're seeing something, aren't you? He asked gently. It's okay. You can tell me. Sarah nodded, a small smile on her face. It's not a bad one this time. It's good. What is it? It's next year. We're on a beach somewhere. It's sunny. Daniel and Maya and Leo are all there. And you're teaching me how to swim. And you're laughing. Really, really laughing. Victor felt his throat tighten. A future filled not with disaster and death, but with sunlight and laughter. A future he never would have had. That sounds like a good future, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The best, Sarah whispered, her eyes shining with a happiness that was no longer a premonition, but a reality. Together, they looked out at the glittering expanse of New York City. The city that had almost been the backdrop for his death was now the heart of their new life. The future was no longer a terrifying, pre-written book of tragedies. It was a blank page, waiting for them to write their own story. And for the first time, for both of them, it was a story filled with hope. And that's a wrap. What a journey. From a terrifying warning to a beautiful, happy ending. This is why we tell stories, for the hope, the love, and the triumph of the human spirit. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of this incredible journey with me. Your comments, your subscriptions, your engagement, it means the world. If you love this story, please leave a final comment letting me know your favorite part of their whole adventure. And of course, if you're not subscribed, please consider it. I have so many more stories like this to share with you, filled with emotion, twists, and heart. Until next time, take care, be kind, and remember that even in the darkest moments, there is always, always hope.